Do you dream of building a colony on Mars? Well, in today's game, Mission to Mars, you can find out what you would have to do. This is an interactive game. It's much like Civilization, but on Mars. It's pretty cool, so enjoy. And I pretty much left everything just standard. Um, like the rovers, the commanders, transports, like everything you need to basically start, they give you automatically. So if you're just starting art, leave it standard. I use the random here to see if I can find the lowest threats and highest resources. Then you get a new start. I won't tell you what it is because y'all know what it is. I picked the location to scan based on where the most minerals were, the concrete was. Like, they gave me some information, they gave you some probes. You have to pick things around what you know. Pick the best site available, and then use your scanners to scan the sites around you. This is your research tree. It shuffles and it varies depending on what you get. So it depends which ones you go for. Use your best option and choose for your playstyle. You just saw me there go through and select all the tiles to be scanned. The game will give you a prompt. I'm now setting up all the things that I brought with me, basically. I start with your power situation. I put down the first self-sufficient dome I could do. I put that within range of concrete because concrete is huge early game. I started setting up some depots so they can get everything unloaded. I did a mass storage, or sorry, bulk storage for all the things like because your concrete waster and your water extractor produce waste. I would also say to make sure that you pick a place to settle near water if possible on Mars. Like that's your objective is try to find water with those scanners before. Now the power infrastructure is a whole nother ball game. I think I made a mistake here. I haven't got there yet, but I started good with the solar panels, but the temptation of wind power in early game is super huge, but you got to be careful that each wind turbine requires polymers in order to like maintenance, like it needs polymers continuously to create that, as well as batteries as well, but like you need far fewer batteries than you would need wind turbines. So be careful about putting down wind turbines early game, like I did here. Like do as I say, not as I do. Learn from the lessons that I created. So we got the concrete up and running. We got the dome being built. We got some batteries being built. We got some powers being built. That was our first founder goal. Those vary depending on your playthrough too, so yours would be different depending on which founder race and species you picked. I'm now getting down some more wind turbines, which I told you was probably a bad idea. I'm seeing that I have a power problem, and putting down wind turbines I think is the problem. But solar panels are probably your best bet for early game, because regardless, you're going to need polymers, like as a monthly expenditure. It just depends on how many batteries you get and how many wind turbines you get, of how many polymers per turn, and I think it's super late game before you're getting into polymers, just so you know. So you're going to be importing that from Earth. The vast majority of this playthrough will be imported polymers. As you can see, I am requesting a supply pod as we speak for some supplies. I think I made a mistake early game where I choose the supply pod. Like I got a mission later where I got 5 free supply pods, and that was why I started using supply pods. But I just had to pay $10 million for that one. If you get the rockets are reusable. Again, we're doing the research tree, and I'm picking the things that we have available to us. A lot of those research options have been generated because of my RC Explorer out on the map. You see me setting up here my first dome, and I have regrets because later on I get the farm, and the farm is a much more efficient way of producing food on Mars. So I have the hydroponics towers to get food started, because that's your first milestone. I suggest if you're new to the game to take the milestone option. Like definitely play milestones. Like do it in order, and that'll help you stay on task and focus for what the game wants you to do. Of course, once you get advanced play, you can do it however you want to do and whatever milestone you want to get. Like You don't have to have a Martian born. You don't have to launch the thing. I just put down a fuel refinery because that just requires water. It doesn't require any workers. And we have a water depot, so I'm making fuel so I can send my rockets back and reuse them. I don't have to have the expenditure of the cargo pods. A lot of times, you will end up with a bunch of rockets early game because you're like, wow, my sponsor gave me 3 rockets. So you fly out 3 rockets, and then you're like, wait, I need to get some people out here. And you didn't build a fuel refinery, you didn't bring a fuel refinery, you're kind of screwed. So I think fuel refinery early game is very crucial. My whole point for this early game was to get the power fluctuation good, the oxygen good, the water good, and then be able to grow food. Because I feel like as long as you have food, water, and oxygen, your people will not die, and that is the important part. Because you're going to have to survive the soul stage, the founding stage. They want to make sure that your colony is viable. We'll come up to that long, but that's crucial to make sure that you support colonists before you bring them. Like, I got the whole thing built before I brought in my first colonists, which you might say is taking the long road, but this is a long video game. You see here I'm selecting the colonists that I'm bringing for the first time, and I'm being very selective of the first one by using the filters. I like to get rid of no traits, like get rid of all the bad traits, and then get my specialists. So I wanted botanists and scientists, because botanists are good at growing food, and scientists obviously you need because you're going to have to generate more research from the planet. Like science is a huge, huge thing. So I focused a lot on science in the early game. So science, food. Because you only get to bring in 12 colonists at first, and you got to be very picky about the first 12 colonists. You also want to get some unspecialized people because you need them to work in their own jobs, like the recreational things, the storage units, like basically anything that doesn't have a job needs an unspecialized person to do it best anyway. And then you later on get Martian universities, so you can teach these unspecialized people specialization and get them working in something they love. Because there are techs that come up that, see, we're talking about the founder stage, there it is. So I can't do anything, I can't import any more new people until after the colony situation is fixed. This way I'm using the logistics from the game to make sure all my people were employed. Because that's crucial to their mental sanity, is that they have a job to do and feel valued, like any of us. That's a crucial situation. See all my little bots? I picked an option earlier in the game to let me have a lot of extra bots. And I think that's pretty crucial because robots do a ton of logistics work in this game. I'm picking new research, and there is the one that about the RC Explorer, who will go get our, not the Explorer, the other one. It gets all the research, like all the materials and things. It's basically your hauler for the game, like especially early game. If you don't set up trade routes with that RC hauler, I think it's a RC hauler, that it needs to go get your iron, like you need iron and polymers from the surface of Mars. Also, as I'm sitting here rewatching this, I completely forgot that you can send missions to Mars, like from Mars. So you get to do like external missions that give you things once you have the fuel. So that's another reason to have the fuel. I'm putting down a rocket pod launcher closer to base there, so it'll help with my logistics. I am trying to set up another base closer to the metals and rare metals deposit. So I need to put down another dome, but your logistics networks have to overlap. So I put down a universal one in between, so they would run the two things to where they needed it. So basically I set the desire on the one in the middle higher. It's got some more milestones. You see how I'm doing the milestones in order? That helps you keep on track. Definitely do that. You need to build a colony slowly and steadily instead of trying to jump the wheel. And I may have done that with this too many things, or maybe I need to build more domes. Like, they're not super expensive, they're just concrete, and we have 2 concrete deposits, so I can build a whole lot more domes. But I always have problems building things like to where they can go together. I noticed later on when I put a third dome down and try to connect the two that I can't because of the way I've had it I've built things around the dome. Like I'm doing the same thing up here. Here's myself trying to save me some electrical wiring. Like instead of using iron to connect things, I like to connect them with the solar panels. Like it just creates a little line of solar panels from dome to dome. That way you have a power connection and you're actually using. So it's just being efficient with my resources. You know you're going to need the solar panels. You might as well build solar panel connections as opposed to just plain old wires. See? I'm even filling it in, being like, I need more solar panels. And maybe that's the key to life lesson early game in this is solar panels. Also batteries. Don't forget you're going to need lots of batteries. I'm thinking at this point it's like 3 per dome. Which turns out to be 6 polymers a month. So you could put up 3 wind towers for that. But I don't think the capacity would do it. And then you need all the repairs for the solar panels just involve metal. And you usually have metal fairly cheaply on the surface of Mars. So metal's easy to come by early game. In late game, there are deep deposits, and you got early game deposits of metal everywhere. So it's definitely a bonus to, solar panels over. Speaking of, this is my first machine parts factory that I had to import from Earth, and I realized, oh crap, I'm still running low on all these things. I usually pick like 2 clicks of polymers, 2 clicks of machine parts, and 1 click of electronics. In later game, the electronics becomes so vital, but I have a rare minerals deposit here, so I put down the machine parts factory next to where the metals deposit is, because machine parts and use metal, like it just makes sense to not have to move forever. So my next group of people I'm bringing in is the geologists, I'm saying it wrong, and engineers. Geologists? Geologists, there it is, geologists. I don't know why I'm having a stroke and couldn't say that word. So I'm looking at changing jobs and balancing the jobs in each place, because obviously I'm having trouble with keeping the population in the thing with all, like, you have to keep them happy and employed. So I think I overbuilt the dome. I used the apartments, and I got the apartment from research on very early on because I think that helps. You have 1 block for all the dome you need, but you have to get some other stuff in there. So there's 2 other options for living quarters. Like there's a smart one and there's a smaller one. So I think maybe I'm just not building enough domes, or not building bigger domes, because I feel like you can connect them together, but then never do. Because the mechanics for connecting domes are awkward. Like you have to have a circle inside the dome at a corner to be able to connect the 2 domes. So they have to, and it has to be within a certain amount of length. Can't just perpetuate and make it like a tube all the way across. And I'm thinking the 2 domes that I have up there should be close enough, but they're not. So it's actually really, really close dome proximity thing. So I haven't decided if I'm going to go back and make another dome, so that way I can connect them both and then have all 4 of them somehow connected. But I also need to put down like a science dome, and I have the jet propulsion thing, so that is a possibility for moving resources. It's jet propulsion. But that again causes fuel, it requires workers, it's a whole big logistics nightmare for flying supplies. And then it adds a whole nother level of supply nightmare, because you have to go back to all your other depots and stuff and make sure that they're not involved in airlift situation. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So I feel like that's pretty late game. But some people might be thinking, wow, he's got 3 domes already. Is that not late game? It's not. Well, I'm sorry, I only have 2. But I have 3 by the end of this. Because I feel like once you have 1 dome up and working with people in it, might as well start working on your next one. And I think my life lesson for building domes is going to be, don't overbuild. Like I probably should have built a science dome, and then built an ag dome, and then built a mining dome. Like I feel like I should specialize the domes more than I do. Because I'm trying to cram as many people as I can into fewer domes. But it's not like I don't have the space, so I could spread out more. And I've never tried to do a playthrough where I spread out more, so maybe that's my next video. If you wanted to be reminded, then I will go ahead and put in a link at the top of this video. Please check them out. So there's me putting down the hub. Just talked about trying to get resources from one side dome to the other. I'm landing those colonists that I picked up to go. So my first geologists are on the ground. Making sure that all our stuff is gotten people. I'm checking to make sure it shifts, because you can vary how much production you have in a single building. Like, that's why I always tell people, be careful not to build a building you don't need, because you have other shifts. There is a penalty for working the night shift, so I don't usually do that one. Unless it gets to the point where I've got just tons and tons of people, which that's like the late game, when people start breeding, start basically, you're not importing colonists anymore, like the colony is rising of its own volition. And that is a challenge in and of itself. There's another one of them free supply pods I got. Probably dropping off polymers, machine parts, and electronics. In my opinion, that's the hardest thing to get in the game. Use power lines there, which is abnormal. I bet I'm going to go back in and put solar panels in behind them. I probably just wanted to get two power grid connected, because I'm sure I'm struggling with power. That's always a huge thing in this game. Struggle for power. The solar panels only do during the day, and then if you don't have enough battery, if you don't have enough solar juice to fill the batteries, it is a complicated situation, especially as you're adding more industry that requires more power. Basically, every time you add something, you should look to see how much power it costs. It tells you, like on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there, you can see the power consumption of whatever it is we're looking at. And that's what you should, like, just put down solar panels for how much it needs. Like, if it says it needs 10, one solar panel does 5, you can only do half the day, so you really need 2 of those. Well, actually, you need 4. So if you need... Back to the research screen, that was the one where it just gives us straight up funding, so I can purchase some more polymers, so on and so forth. Which you can also get funding early game by that rare metals deposit. But late game, you turn rare metals into electronics, so then you become self-sufficient. And personally, I think that's the goal of this game, is to become self-sufficient. And you just saw that I ordered just a ton of polymers there, because I know I've got too many wind turbines. I have a polymer factory down, but I don't have enough people to run it. So there's one person working in that polymer factory, and she's making 0.04 polymers a sol. And I'm currently burning something like 4 or 5. See, there's me trying to put the tunnel in, and I can't reach it. It's not even those 3. Like, I feel like it should be a little longer, Paradox. I feel like that's very doable within range to do that. Build domes. But you gotta have a hole on both sides in the right spot. And I'm obviously not thinking about that. I'm just putting down some housing, because you know that's the first thing you're gonna need, is somewhere to live. Oh, there we go, it's solar panel. I knew it was a thing. Why waste a big power connection when you can surround it by solar panel? Because even the wires require maintenance, so be aware. Everything you put down is gonna have a cost. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This game is so peaceful and serene. There's very rarely any crazy things. There's meteor showers, there's freezes, but there's all plans. They know how to fix it. It's together. All right, so you see me picking a colonist again. That's like, I think picking colonists and using your filters is huge. Like, the first couple of times I played through this, I just selected whatever the computer auto selected, and that is way not the case. You get a whole lot more job satisfaction from a person who's doing what they want to do for a living, and they know what they're doing, so it gets done better. The specialists in their field are great. There's even a toggle on the building that you can make them just specialists. And I believe I did that for the metal and the machine part factory, because there can't be waste for that. Need that. There's setting up a trade route during a meteor storm. I'm like, ooh, meteorites, send the RC Explorer. Let's go. Let's go get some metals. Love it. Love it. So we're checking to see what I can send back. Dropping off another depot because I've noticed that one of the rockets doesn't have a place to put the food it's got. Because every time you ask for people, it brings food too. And I'm big into making sure that we have enough food to live. So I typically have a great deal of excess food, gotta say. The automated storage things are nice, and I will eventually get those in the research bit, but didn't need it for right now because I have plenty of drones. And that's the end of day 1. So yes, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, and check out the playlist for more things. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next one. And thanks for watching all the way to the end. I appreciate you guys. If you did, put something in the comment like monkeys. Put the word monkeys in the bottom if you watched all the way to the end. That way I'll know. Special like. You might even get a mention in my next video. Okay, thanks. Bye!